Woo, 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 woo.
Yo, yo, yo. We are back. Bullies on Parade, episode 3. Man, it's been a second, huh?
Yeah, it's been a good long minute.
Yeah, it has. Listen, we're gonna wait a little bit and let some people hop on here, and I kind of want to talk about, before we get into the show and the title of the show, I want to get into talking about the shows we just went to these past 2 weekends that we were so busy we couldn't really hop on here and do the podcast live, but we did take some live feeds this last Saturday at the Arkansas show, Kansas, the Midwest Bully Showdown. Man, that was off the hook.
That sure was.
Past 2 weekends.
It was not. That was.
We were so busy, we couldn't really. It definitely made us feel like we were at home, and we're very, very appreciative of the people that were there, that showed us love, that really made us feel like the community of Arkansas, man. We are extremely blessed. Thank you guys all. Huge shout out to the homie Butters and the NCBB crew.
Yes, the whole family.
No Coast Bully blessed. That whole crew, man. You know, those guys are really diligent workers, and we appreciate all the effort they did. You know, it definitely made a difference, and I feel like the community out there really was receptive to the show, you know?
It was interesting, and you know, we've been down there quite a few times now, and just the history, a lot of history there. A lot of old school stuff around.
Yeah.
Just in the cuts, just sleeping.
Yeah, we seen a half son that just got brought out from the frozen semen, you know, and so it definitely is cool to see these old strands of blood still around and still out there, and people still trying to work those bloods and trying to get in with, you know, putting these dogs together the old school way. We really appreciate that, man. We took 3 dogs the first show, which was the American Bully Bonanza in Claremont 2 weeks ago, and that went well. You know, we were able to get points towards his champion title for Montana. We're extremely happy about that. There was some great dogs out there too. Shout out to Strike Hard. Had a wonderful showing with him and his dogs out there. You know what I'm saying? He's got some good stuff right now. All young pups ready to come out and show their work. The zookeeper Martin out there handling dogs, man, that guy's always putting in work. I see that guy with all sorts of dogs running back and forth, and he's got a really good situation going for himself with the dogs, man. He really communicates with the dogs. He's one of the best handlers, in my opinion, around here in California. And
sure puts on a show.
Yeah, he does. Sure. You know, yeah, he does.
Which is one of the reasons we go to the shows, to see, you know, these OGs and these up and coming handlers.
Yeah.
You know, start strutting their stuff. You know, they don't do all this work for nothing.
Oh man, and they don't hold back. You know, that dude Martin has really, you know, made his own way. You know, he's becoming one of the best handlers out here, if not, in my opinion, like I said, he is, and hopefully he continues to do the work. He shows in all registries, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? That definitely shows that you're putting in the work and getting out there and putting yourself out there and letting everybody know how much work you do when nobody's watching, you know? So shout out to those guys. Like I said, man, Arkansas, 24-hour drive, bro, there.
It was well worth it, though.
Man, I got to tell you, like, one of the best things of the whole trip for me was coming back through Arizona when it was starting to get the sunset, bro. Oh, that was amazing. That was one of the best parts of the whole trip. You know, I got to reflect a little bit on the show, and you know, we did extremely well out there. We took a few pups, and we took the OG Bogart, you know, which now he's coming into his full maturity here in the next year. So we're looking forward to him now getting into his breeding career, like fully getting into his breeding career. So we're excited about that.
The variety of bullies over there, and just, I mean, breeders.
Yeah.
And the motivation.
Yeah.
And the I don't know, the energy that was there. Just, I mean, we saw the mini chows from, Pack Edge came through. Just, I mean, obviously.
They weren't competing, but they went to show their work, as breeders and what they're doing. And that was cool to see that, man. I hadn't seen little chows like that. I seen big chows. As a matter of fact, you owned a big chow.
I sure did.
And real mean. But at the same time, you look at these dogs, and they're smaller dogs. They're super nice. I like them. I was thrown back by them when I seen them. I was like, man, those are really, really nice pups. But no, we definitely are very appreciative of the community out there, and just making the drive out there, like you said, was well worth it.
It sure was.
Just to go out there and be among the community out there in Kansas, and we got to taste some great barbecue off the hook. And my boy Butters made us a steak off the hook. That thing was, I swear, man, that brought me back to life, because after 24 hours of driving, we left Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we got to Kansas Friday night at like 9 o'clock, 8:30.
Yep, we sure did.
Obviously stopping throughout the way for the dogs and, letting the dogs do their thing. There was, both pups that we took hadn't been on long road trips like that. So this was their first experience. And like we talked about in prior episodes here at Bullies on Parade, the ability to start, putting these dogs in those positions, So I see that there's a few people logging on here and hopping on and joining us live. So I think it's going to get time for us to start this program. But like I said, we appreciate all the love and support we had these past 2 weekends, man. Much love and respect to everybody out there in the community, bro, because we had a blast.
It's just about to get better. So many new developments going on, so many new people coming through and really taking interest in the movement.
Yeah, it's exciting to see that. It's exciting to see new faces, new people, and old school people that kind of left the scene for a while now, kind of looking at it and being like, okay, well, now they're starting to make these dogs like I remember these dogs. So now, they're starting to come back, and that's a great feeling, that's a great feeling to be a part of that. So, much love and respect to the WBA. Like I said, we're part of the WBA, and we understand the movement, and we understand where the WBA is trying to go, and where it's really making the effort to push the healthy dog, push the healthy breed, bring those older dogs back, bring that older look back, that healthier type, and that's what we're all about, man. So, like I said, if you guys haven't been to a show for the WBA, man, you guys got to go. You guys got to go and check for yourself and see what is going on and what the community is really looking at, you know what I'm saying? Because it's difficult to say these things without somebody being there and understanding the energy that's going through these shows,
Yeah, you gotta be there. You gotta see the production that is happening. You gotta see what I believe is that what real American Bully people,
enthusiasts,
not just the breeders, but the ones that know, just the ones that they've been keeping everything in the cuts.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well, I'm not going to win in another registry, so we don't say names, or I'm not going to win because of politics or because of whatever reason, but I know the standard and I know what an American Bully is and where they're going from there.
Yeah.
And they're coming out, and I think I saw that over there at the Midwest. It was.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing a lot more of that. I'm not lying to you. That's the truth.
I'm really looking forward to it. I believe there's going to be another show in September, I believe. So stay tuned for that. I'm very sure that you guys will hear all the advertising for the show, and there's going to be a lot of people that went to this show that understand what's going on, so I would invite everybody that didn't go, man, try to make the trip. It was well worth it for us. It was 24 hours there and 24-hour back drive, so.
But it was well worth it. The scenery there, like you said, the sunsets, we drove through 2 different routes.
Yeah.
One on the way there, one on the way back.
Yeah.
We had some other business to attend to, but we went through this route and we saw these beautiful canyons.
Oh, man.
We went through the other route. We were in national forest.
Yeah, and we drove through that at nighttime, so we didn't really get too much of the scenery, you know, but we got more of Texas and stuff like that during the day, you know, but no, to catch Arizona at the end of that trip, that was like, for me, it was like the blessing, you know, the whole drive to do all that and compete and get the dogs ready and get there and bathe the dogs at 9 o'clock at night, all tired from a 24-hour drive, getting there, feeding the dogs, giving the dogs a bath, trying to get them groomed up, going the next day to the show early in the morning, getting the dogs set up and trying to attack the purpose that we were there. And really, we weren't there for the ribbons.
Living out the things that we talk about here, getting prepared for the show. Yeah. Preparing the dog that has now graduated to entering a show and has got there. You know, he got through all the obstacles in his life before he becomes what he is now experiencing in real life, which is what our show is about today.
That's right. So today's show, episode 3 of Bullies on Parade, evaluation to graduation.
Yeah.
You know, we thought about this one because, you know, the first episode we were talking about, you know, ring etiquette, you know, and what you should kind of do in the ring. And like I said, these are all our opinions, you know what I'm saying? So if it helps anybody, great, you know, and if it's just a good piece of conversation, even better, you know what I'm saying? But
that's right.
But at the same time, as long as you guys are taking all the information in and dissecting it in your own way, it's all good. You know, we laid the information out. Episode 2 was based on the standard.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? On what the standard, and we didn't go through the whole standard, like I said. We kind of broke it down our way. We didn't want to put everybody through a class environment.
This ain't
a college course here, you know. Ain't nobody here a professor or anything like that, you know. So, but we laid down some information I think that was very helpful for people building show dogs and getting into the show dogs and trying to, you know, have these show quality dogs. And now the third episode, we're going to get into evaluating from puppies to graduating into either a grand champion or champion.
That's right. That's right. What does it take? What signs are you looking for?
Right.
Or what can you start looking for? And how soon can you start looking for it? Shout out to Juan Martinez, a big, hey man, hospitality over there at the Midwest and the Smiley clan. All you guys too, you know, you guys put on a good show. Always taking a lot of dogs, always giving their best and everything like that.
That's great, man. We definitely had a great time out there, you know, and coming back to the subject of evaluation and where to start with pups, you know, it all starts in the whelping box. You know what I'm saying? From the beginning of time, I think even as a breeder, it all starts in the whelping box. You know, there's certain things, characteristics that certain little pups have, you know, like, and it would be great to have some of your guys' input on this and on the comments, you know, write down the things that you may look for in a pup.
Or that you've seen.
Or that you've seen that work out in the show ring, you know. I think for us, let's start from the beginning, right? From the day of birth. You know, we definitely want to keep the pups as healthy as possible. You know, we try to eliminate the female from being with the puppies for too long unsupervised. And so what we'll do is we'll keep pups in incubators or away from mom, but in a place where they can still hear mom so they don't panic or have any type of anxiety, you know, so that the mom doesn't any which way harm the puppy or, you know, because I've seen instances where females from cleaning the pup so much may, you know, clean the tail so hard because it has a little poop and eventually she snips the little tail off, you know what I'm saying? And I've seen these things happen, you know, they clean so much that they start torquing their little bodies because they're constantly cleaning or they overly clean the umbilical cord and, you know, those things can hurt. So we tend to separate them, you know?
Yeah, but that, in that sense, it gives us the opportunity to be also constantly vigilant.
Right.
Now, Now you separate. Now you are in charge.
Right? Since the beginning. Which puppy eats the most? You know? Which puppy eats the least? You know? A lot of great traits is hungry. You know, hunger. If the puppy is hungry, that means that it wants to survive, you know? So that's one thing that we automatically look for, is a puppy that will latch, that will go on real quick, because those are also traits that he might pass on genetically, right?
That's right.
Like a mother who can't produce milk, or a mother who, you know, constantly has certain genetical traits that she passes on. All of these things are traits that they will pass on, you know? So a good whelping bitch or a good whelping female will produce good whelping females as she goes along, you know? So, yeah, we definitely look for little signs like that in the beginning, right?
It's a dog that eats, healthy dog.
Yeah.
Active dog.
Yes.
You know, he's looking for the tit, or he's looking for that milk.
Yes.
He's looking for the mom. He's looking for he's stimulating himself, and he's looking to survive.
Yes. Shows, to me, it shows energy. It shows wanting to survive. It shows the ability to be able to get nutrients. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big
because you
plus.
could help the run to the litter survive.
Right.
But in nature, he would not survive.
He would not survive.
X'd out real quick.
Yeah, 100%. So we look for that. And then, you know, as they go on, obviously they get their vaccinations. And those are different shows that we'll get into as far as like whelping techniques and vaccinations and what we do.
Right.
But for now, the process moves forward. At what time do you start your first evaluation? What time do we usually start our first evaluation?
I usually, you know, as we're all different, and this is a good thing about being different.
Right.
You know, if you start evaluating from 3 to 4, and I go from 5 to 6.
6 weeks.
You know, and that's when, but your eye is at that time looking at something that I'm not.
Right.
But I usually do 2 to 3 weeks in the first evaluation.
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks, because I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the hunger.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
how much their head has grown, how much their body.
I'm even listening to how hard and how deep they cry.
Yeah.
Lung power.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. These are all good things. These are all good tips, man. These are all good tips, you know? Sometimes bring the puppy a little closer and you could hear him breathing, you know? If he's struggling, or you could hear him take deep breaths, like he's really, you know, being able to ingest all that oxygen. You know, I think a good basis for evaluation is from 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. That's how I take it. And I look for certain traits at certain times, right? Like, for example, the first evaluation, one of my things that I look for is how easy is it for me to work with the puppy? That's one of the first things, you know. How easy is it for me to work with the pup? You know, is he wanting to work? Is he shy? Does he not want to work? You know, is he a little active dude? Does he stick his head up? Does she wiggle her tail when she's, you know, trying to work? You know, those are all little things that I look for mainly at that point, because I feel like puppies haven't really shown you what they're going to possibly be at that point yet. You know, they give you a rough example of, I think, their character and who they're going to be. Which one is the one that kind of bullies the rest of them around, you know?
That's right.
Which one is the more cowardly one? Which one is the one that sits in a corner and just watches, you know? Me, myself, I like that one. The one that sits in the corner and just kind of watches everybody and watches how everybody's moving and conducting. Yeah. You know, I think that those little puppies are very intuitive. Very intuitive, so they'll be a lot easier to connect with in the ring. That's one trait I look for in the whelping box.
I know this one's hard. Because if you're not a hands-on, if let's just say you buy your puppies,
right?
You know, we're not going to give you a puppy when it still needs its mother.
Well, here's the thing: is I think that us as breeders, okay, this is a great topic, by the way.
But can I tell you the one I look for?
Which one is that?
Which one opens his eyes first?
Yes,
that's what I seriously, because
that's a good one
to me that shows me, you know, they have the sense of smell. And they have their hearing on point, off the bat.
Yes.
But they don't get their eyesight until they get it. Yeah. And it's the one for me. And I have had the privilege, you know, to to witness that.
Yes. And you're right, you know, like you were just saying right now about, you know, some people, they buy the puppy and they don't really know what's going on. Now, here's the thing with that. I believe that breeders and people that are building dogs for the show, or people that are having a program, you know, I think that we need to be more responsible in that manner. And if you are going to set a dog that you say is going to be a show dog, there's no way that you can place a show dog, you know, at 8 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows. The dog can change throughout the course of the year and be something completely different. So I think that as breeders, we got to take a little bit more time and evaluate the stock or evaluate the litter, and be honest with yourself and not be kennel blind. You know?
Absolutely.
And it's always good to take opinions from other people.
There's no need for them goggles.
Yeah.
There's no need for them goggles.
You know? And this is a good thing, you know? I personally let my wife and my daughter see the litters, and I let them interact with the puppies a lot. And from them, I see, you know, what they look at, and I ask them, which one do you think? And most of the time, about 95% of the time, it's that dog. You know what I'm saying? So I take that into consideration. It's okay to have somebody else's point of view and somebody else's eye, you know, because they might see something you don't.
I agree with that. I really do. And you know, I understand that sometimes even I'll say things, or they'll say things to me, whoever it is, because, you know, we're okay with that. That it might hit me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I think that constructive criticism is key, especially, you know, one eye is better than two eyes is better than four.
Yes.
You know.
No, I definitely think that is a good thing, is to have people look at your pups, you know, and through their eyes, because there's no judgmental there. They don't know much about dogs, but they will gravitate to the dog that's prettier, to the dog that's cuter, or whatever, you know. At that point, I personally, like I said, I like hearing people's opinion on the pups. And that also leans into me as when I start to evaluate the puppies, as in, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that one, you know. And like I said, 95% of the time, women have a very good eye for that, you know. And so we look for that a lot. Like I said, our evaluations happen 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12, you know. Yeah. And the first evaluation we look for is attitude. How easy is it for them to work? The second evaluation, now we're starting to look a little bit deeper now. You know, now I'm starting to look at fronts. How's their front? Is he, you know, also at this point, you don't ever want to put too much protein on these puppies, you know, because they start to get rickets and they start to turn their elbows out and bend their arms. So keeping them at low protein, high calorie, that's a better diet for pup.
You know, now we're at that point where you kind of like sign a breath of relief, because they're past. They made it. They opened their eyes, and now they're on to you know, which is really important. That stage where they're chewing everything, and they're ready to eat.
Yes.
And you know that's exactly right. Yeah, protein too much. Now you're like really like you're breathing a sigh of relief, but now it's game on.
Now it's game on. So now with ingesting more food, obviously now they'll be at the point where they're on kibble, wet kibble. You know, you don't ever want to give a puppy dry food. You know, put a little water in their kibble, let it soak, and let them work at it, because of the fact that now the evaluation comes to, let's check bites. Let's check how the bites are. Because to us, like I said, you know, bites is a very important thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be looking for bites. I'll be looking for fronts at the second evaluation. You know, I don't really look for top lines or angulation or rear hock or anything like that. You know, I look for the most basic thing, is just the front. You know, how are their eyes set? You know, do they have a good expression? How are their heads? Are they balanced to proportion to their bodies? Are they big-headed puppies, you know?
Shout out to the Smiley Clan. Yeah, adding a little bit of pumpkin to keep that stool soft.
Yeah.
And you know.
That helps.
Just little things that
helps them digest better. Start getting used to that.
because they're starting to eat something that is completely new to them.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. So watch mouths.
Preferably, I prefer mother's milk until the bitch can't handle it no more. But,
and our females, they get to a point where they're like, nope, they are. You ain't getting close no more, so no more titty for you.
There's nothing better than mother's milk, bro. You tell me. Shout out to Eric Wilson. Also, he says, a small circle, because a big circle, you're not going to want everybody's opinion.
Right.
But, be welcoming to opinions.
Yes, period. Be welcoming to opinions, period. And you get to the point where now you're evaluating the puppies. Now it's at 8 weeks now. Now you're at 8 to 10 weeks now. Now you're evaluating puppies at 8 to 10 weeks. And now I start to look at top lines. Now I start to look at angulation. I don't really look at these things until later. I let the puppies develop. I try to have no expectation over it. And that's another thing. Is you start putting too much expectation on the litters, you're going to be disappointed, So I suggest that, you don't put expectation on these puppies. You just let them develop into their own. And if you're doing a good job breeding good traits into these puppies, you're very sure to have something in there that might get close to the standard. You know what I'm saying? So that at this point, now you're breaking down the dog. Is he going to be able to make the cut? Now you start separating your pets from your brood stock to now your show dogs. You know what I'm saying? Because now you're in that 10 to 12 weeks, and like I said, you're not going to find the perfect show dog at this stage. You're not, you're not. But there might be 2 or 3 that have potential, right?
Those are the ones you're looking at now.
Right. So now those are the ones you're looking at.
Hopefully you haven't sold them yet.
Right? That's a big whammy on some people. Is that, I see breeders sometimes putting up, first pick is already sold, second pick is already sold, third pick is already sold. And it's like, wait a minute, the puppies aren't even born, or the puppies are just 3 weeks old. Like, you don't want to wait and see if you keep the best dog out of it? Like, why are you doing it then? We try to breed with a purpose every time. We breed, we want to keep something from it. There's a purpose for it. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's a piece of the program. So now we're heavily dabbling into evaluating the puppies at, 12 weeks and on. Now you start separating. At least this is what we do. We take maybe 2 of the pups that we think are going to maybe cut the cheese. And we start kind of letting them, separating them a little bit, putting them in a different little situation, where there's more noise, where there's more interaction, there's more people coming in and out, things like this, so that we can see how they act when they're not comfortable.
And there's the line between breeding stock and pet home.
Right.
Yeah. That we had a comment real quick is, where's that line? Well, there's that line. There's that moment where you start to see that, now these are going to be great pets.
Yeah. To me, when I evaluate, and when we sit down, we put the puppies up, and all 3 of us are sitting there, and we're watching the puppies, and one of us is stacking them, and each one of us is putting in our input. The puppy at least, cannot, let me just say, the puppy to us cannot have more than 2 faults, or undesirable traits for us to even consider it a breeding stock. If the puppy has 1 undesirable trait, we might consider it for the show depending on the trait. You know what I'm saying? But we're very, very particular on things like that, So if there is no puppy in that litter that's of show quality, then there's no puppy of show quality, and that's just what it is, Can't expect to have those kind of dogs in every litter. We can always do our best, but we're never going to be to the point where we're going to get it, No, so
never.
So let's not put expectations on that. And like I said, be very critical on the dogs that you do place as show dogs that you may believe, because that also holds your reputation as a breeder. Are you going to give somebody a dog at, 8 weeks and sell it to him as a man, this dog's going to be a show dog, he's going to be a champion and this and that, and the dog is just horrific. By the time he's 6 months, terrible, you know? So it's like, where do you go from there? So that's why I was suggesting, you know, we should take a little more time for those of us breeding. And if you do believe that it's a show dog, keep it a little bit longer. Make sure that it's that quality that you are presenting to the customer or to the person adopting the dog, you know?
It's one of those moments where we also put into consideration that the show dog is not born. You can, you know, it shows certain qualities and traits that can be toned and honed in for its performance in the ring.
And that's going to be a good one. I mean, if you guys agree to disagree, you know, hey, write down your opinion on it. We'd love to hear it. Like I said, we believe that a champion is not born. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can have the traits of a champion, but if you don't, like my brother said, break those things down and chisel that diamond and make that diamond and put him in positions where he can grow, then you ain't never going to see that.
We start.
That's just part of the process.
Yeah, we start our developmental program early because the earlier the better. These are the moments, these are the times when we're talking about evaluation to graduation, we're talking about the moments where you have the ability to hands-on know if this dog is unique, if he's exempt, if he's something out of here, you know, and it's our job too as breeders to start, you know, when they start gumming, when they start pulling their teeth, you want to teach them good habits.
Yes.
Now, if they can actually catch those habits, like my brother said, he said, if they're easy to work with, now you have
the potential,
base, a foundation of saying, hey, this dog was easy to work with as a puppy.
Yes, a very smart, intuitive little dog, you know, and like I said, we separate them. You'll have your brood stock, your pets, and your show dogs. You may not get any show dogs. Say you get 2 show dogs. Fantastic, that you may think at this point that have the potential. So what happens then? Do you get rid of them? Do you sell them? Do you say, hey, these are show dogs now?
A lot of people would say it depends on the money situation.
and you know, hey, to each their own. I understand.
I agree too.
You know, but at the same time, for us, we hold on to these dogs. You know, we hold on to them as much as we can. And, you know, if we can put the dog in winning positions where he can be a champion before he's a year old, great. You know, we might place the dog as a champion already. You know, because we know for a fact that that's what he is. You know, there is no shortcutting it. I know that a lot of us breeders don't have the capability of keeping dogs like that for a very long time, and that's totally understandable. But for those that can, you know, that's a great thing to do. Because now you're really putting out your product as, yes, this dog has been through the trenches. And yes, he has been judged and he has been gone through all these things, you know, but as qualifications go, once they hit that 6-month mark, you know, actually 4 months is our first basis, right?
When they start to be able to, you know, they're out of the crawling stage, and now you're really starting to see structure.
Yes. Yes.
You know, now,
about this time, this is when you're really seeing this, at least to us.
Yes.
You start to really see their folding, you know, how they're going to develop at like 4 to 5 months. At this time, what we do is we try to take these puppies to the show ring, because we don't just want to be the ones in our yard to say, oh, we think that this one is going to cut the cheese, you know, and this and that, and be kennel blind to our own. You take this dog to get evaluated by other people, by other judges.
Absolutely.
You know, even if it's for no points.
Get your, you know, be on top of your vaccinations, be on top of your game, and take them out to the shows, get them ready.
At 4 months.
You know, and don't.
They have the classes from 4 to 6. So at 4 months, I would.
And there's a reason why the class is from 4 to 6.
Yes, and people don't take advantage of this. You know, like I see maybe like one pup at 4 to 6, you know, like very rare. You know, everybody waits until they're 6 months because they don't want to pay for the dog if he's not going to get any points. But there's a big misunderstanding there that you're actually teaching the dog. You know, you're going there to help the dog. And like I said, if you don't put them in a position of being able to be successful, then, you know, failure is going to be imminent. You know what I mean? Like it's imminent. So you have to take that into consideration. Don't be kennel blind yourself. If you believe it's a show dog, take them out. Take them out to a show. Let other people see what the pup is about. And then therefore, when you do decide to place the dog, you can say, well, you know what? I think that this dog is going to do it. So-and-so judge has seen him. They said the same thing. It's always good to talk to the judges at 4 to 6 months and dive into that with them. Like, do you believe this can be a nice show dog? You know, that's always a great question, you know, because, you know, you may not see it and he might be able to help you even more so at that point and tell you, well, I do believe so, but you know what? His rear angulation is really, at this point, it might not change, you know? So all of these things are informative for your building. You know what I'm saying? So yes, 4 to 6 months, take them to the shows.
Take them to the shows. They're ready to be put in the judge's hands.
Yes.
And I know it's scary, but don't get scared. You know, it's one of them learning curves, not just for them.
And not just as a breeder, not just as a breeder, but as a pet owner. I think that's even more terrible and terrifying because, you know, you believe that's your kid. You know what I mean? So you show up and they're like, hey, sorry, man, you got an ugly ass kid. You know what I mean? So it's like, you stabbed me in the heart. I'll never come back again, you know? But the truth of the matter is that these shows are built for a purpose, you know? And the purpose is to evaluate breeding stock. That's what the purpose of these shows is. You know, that's why you have labels like champion, grand champion, you know, exceptional dogs. These are exceptional dogs to be bred into the gene pool. Yes. And the judge's job is to siphon through and tell you which ones are the best dogs to be able to breed to, which is the best stock, you know? So with that being said, at 6 to 9 months, which is the puppy class, is standard because at this point you still don't know if it's going to be a pocket or a standard size dog or a classic size dog. You're still not very aware. Most of us that do breed certain type of dogs, we know exactly what they're going to be at that age. That's right. So we tend to put them in these classes, and like I said, the puppy classes, don't take the puppy classes as, oh, they need to get points and all this. Take the puppy classes as teaching the dog to get into the rhythm of the show life. You know, because if you take a dog at a year old, and this has happened to us, right? With an exceptional female. I mean, she was bad, you know what I mean? And we built her up at home. We thought that, oh, you know what? We made a ring at home. We were working her at home, and, you know, we kept doing things at home and bringing our dogs around her, which she was comfortable and all these things. And, you know, at the point where she became a year old and we said, okay, now she's ready to get into the 1 to 2 year class in pockets, and there ain't nobody's going to stand a chance with this female. You know what I mean? Because, dude, look at her, you know? We took her there. Her attitude was crap. You know what I'm saying? She wanted to get at every dog. She wasn't comfortable. She was anxious. And that was our fault.
I remember them days.
You know, that was our fault, you know, because we didn't put her in positions to build her up to these things. We thought, oh, well, we have a great dog. Let's just throw her in there. And we got our butts chewed, you know?
Yes, we did.
We got our butts chewed out. So we learned from this. And, you know, a wise person learns from others' mistakes. So if you guys take that into consideration, take your dogs early. Take your dogs early, get them used to the show life. Now, once they get out of those puppy classes, what are the expectations of this?
Wow.
You know,
from the get-go, there are so many expectations. You know, we have high expectations that sometimes really don't pan out.
Right.
You know? And it's important to know that. And this next stage, this is where, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. Either you just don't get it, or your goggles, you're kennel blind that you don't see that.
Yes.
At this stage, it's really relevant, the development now.
Yes. Now they're getting into the 1 to 2 year classes in whatever class the dog may fall under, right? And now at this point, the expectations, I believe, should be raised a little bit. And here's the thing though. The way I place it is this dog gonna have a difficult time getting out of the puppy classes? Once he hits that 9 to 12 month mark, once he hits the 9 to 12, is he having difficulties getting out of these puppy classes? And I look more, not for the placement of the dog or first, second, or third place, but I look more as into the attitude now of the dog. Like, what is his attitude? Is he conducting himself like I can push him more? Or is he cowering down on me and not wanting to be in this position anymore? What do I see? Those are things that I take into very high consideration. Now, obviously, if the puppy is winning classes and beating his own, getting best of winners and all of these things, well, now you might have an exceptional animal, And what do you do with an exceptional animal? Let's get into that. What do you do with an exceptional animal? Do you wear and tear him out? Do you put them away, let them marinate? What do you do?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that, brother?
I like to take my time. I know that time is for a lot of people in the game.
Time is of the essence.
It's of the essence. Time is not of the essence for us and for me in particular. But
for a dog that you know is exceptional, that has been building in the ring as a puppy, and he's just getting better and better and better results.
It's time is of the essence for them.
Yeah,
this is their moment, and I don't want to take it away from them. This is time to strap the boots on
and
get on the road, and really put them out there, because that's what I say. He's not born the champ yet.
No,
but if you take at this moment that you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, you see you have something in your hands, by all means, expose it.
Yes.
Put it out there.
Yes. Put it out there. Put it out there. And don't take heavily into opinions, but just be constructive about building the dog's confidence in the ring. That's a big thing. I think we're having a bit of trouble with some dogs with their confidence right now, because we have so many dogs that it's very difficult to position each single one, So right now, honestly, we're making cuts to who's going to be in the rest of the show rings this year. You know?
That's something that just came to my head, and I was kind of like, why? The fact that in per se, when we'll give a little insight in our yard, we have of different stages.
Yes.
And you have your big guys that are just bullying all the little guys around, and they're like, and they're lovable. I mean, they're friendly. They don't fight.
There's no aggression.
There's none of that.
But you can see the maturity in the yard.
But he's like, get off my ball. I'm trying to get a little bit more of this water, and you can see, and that, I was thinking, could that affect a certain type of that pizzazz, that nature of, hey, I'm the big dog. And we have some big dogs there. I mean, not big dogs in size, but their attitude is big.
Yeah. Angela Smiley asks, what do you look for in the 6 to 9 month class? Well, let's see. Like we just said, confidence, head up, happy to be in the ring now, but not just that. You're really looking for structure as well. Does the dog have a good bite, a good front? Does he have good proportions? At this point, the proportions are changing. So you cannot really take proportions into consideration,
That's right.
Because they're evolving right now. They're changing. But what you can do is keep an eye on the straightness of the back of their hocks. Make sure they're still angulated. They have angulation. Check the front. Make sure their front is nice and straight. Make sure their feet aren't splaying out at this point. Certain things that you look for, because if their feet are splaying out, maybe you're putting too much weight on the dog, and you might be breaking the dog down instead of helping the dog at this particular moment. As a judge, I believe it's a job of the judge to say, hey, listen, you're putting a little too much weight on this dog. You cut him back a little bit. Or, hey, your dog is a little lean right now. You need to put a little more weight on him. You know, these things are constructive as well, you know, especially at this age, you know. And a judge who has seen many dogs can help you more with that, you know. So, yeah, you look for those things at myself 6 to 9 months. And by 9 to 12 months, now I'm really looking at structure. Now I'm really looking if the dog is going to, you know, be able to go through his class, you know, not just because he may be a pocket or a standard or an XL or whatever, but does he have the structure? Does he compare to the standard of a 9 to 12 month old puppy? You know, how far is he from that standard? You know, those are the things I look for from 9 to 12, you know, and then once they hit that 1 year mark and they're in that first class and they're in that their own class, like for example, pockets, standards, classics, XLs, you know.
And you know what? As a person that has the privilege to attend so many shows, I'll tell you this: they're gonna learn who their competition is. These are dogs that these are competition that they're gonna face throughout their life in the show ring.
Yeah, they'll probably face that dog 5, 6, 10 times.
And I'll tell you what, they will not forget.
No, they won't.
I saw that in the Midwest.
Yeah. No, they won't.
We brought Bogart. He did not forget. He did not forget what he. And you know.
No, he loved being out there. He was out there in Oklahoma, and he loved it out there.
He knew it.
You know, dogs. I believe that those type of dogs are exceptional. You know,
That's why they belong.
Not because. No, and this doesn't go because Bogart is our dog. No, it's just the way he conducts himself. The way he conducts himself like that champion, like a grand champion. Very arrogant with himself when he walks around. You know,
it's just something that we got a privilege of, you know,
watching him grow in the ring. I've had the privilege of having him, you know, at the other end of my lead, you know, all his career, you know, so it's wonderful to see them develop. And that's why I say, like, all of the things that we tell you here on this podcast aren't just things that are made up or that you may have read in a magazine or that somebody may have said. No, these are things that we've done in our yard.
And hopefully you guys have too and experienced it, and you guys are here, and I'll tell you, you know, put out your comments, you know. We're reading them as we go, and
we're trying to read as many comments, you know, as we can, but I think we're kind of filling those voids as we go along through the process, you know.
If you want, I can read them to you guys, and I know you can read them too.
So, but at 1 to 2, now you're really breaking down the dog. Now you're getting into some nitty gritty stuff.
Well, because now you really have, and you should have the full spectrum laid out in front of your eyes.
Now,
don't put this on the judges.
Right.
You guys see, you can evaluate your own dog. That's why we're talking about this. Where the graduation to evaluation is up to you in your own yard. And then
and to take those, like for example, if you take your puppy and man, he's not getting no kind of ribbons. He's not even placing. Like that
should say something to you. Nobody should have to say it to you.
Yeah, that should say something to you. Like, hey man,
with much love
and respect, man. But you know what? Just put that dog away. You know what I'm saying? Put that dog away, or put him as a pet. Or he may have some good attributes.
More attention and more effort and really evaluate yourself.
Yeah. You know, we've learned to be the hardest critics, you know, and we're very honest about our stuff, you know, and we try to put a lot of videos out on our yard and stuff like that because we're very open, you know. We hide nothing. We've always done that. We've always tried to lead by example, you know, and like I said, the things we talk about here are the things we do, you know, whether they help you guys in any way, man, that's more power, you know.
As we always have said, at the end of the day, it's a combination of you and your champ, your dog, your competition that you take to the ring, because you will transfer everything that you got, and he'll transfer it through that lead.
Right. So once you get into the 1 to 2 class, what are you looking for, man? I personally believe once the dog hits that class, if 2 out of 4 shows he's not coming in first or second, then there's something you got to think about. You know what I'm saying? Are you willing to play chess now to make this dog become a champion? Pick and choose now which judges you'll go to or which shows you go to? Or are you going to say, hey, you know what? Like we just said, be honest with yourself and say this dog's not going to cut it. We got to move forward with the next dog in line to come through. You know, it's unfortunate to say, but if you become cutthroat like that, your program exceeds and excels rapidly because now you're being completely honest with the results that are happening, you know, and you're taking those results and putting them to application in your yard.
Shout out to George Luda. He commented this earlier and he said, you know, the obstacle for a breeder is to turn off that sentimental.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
Part.
And as a dog owner, that sentimental part where, you know, they tell you, hey, man,
and he was relating it into the puppy stage, but that advice could be put into play in every stage possible. You know, but I'm a firm advocate that if you can't beat them, join them. So maybe, you know,
learn something from them. You know, ask them, man, your dogs are doing great. What are you doing? You know, what's going on?
In the wrong registry. And
you know what I mean?
We're in the upper echelon here. You want a real competition, this is where you go.
Yeah, well,
but if you don't, you know, there's a house for everybody, I believe.
Nah, man.
Much love to the community.
Look, at the end of the day, if the dog is not coming through in the 1 to 2 class and he's not exceeding and excelling through that class, and you have to pick and choose where you're going and invest more time into searching for the right shows and building a whole show calendar based around trying to make that dog a champion, is it really worth it to do all that for that dog? You know, or do you put that dog away and say, you know what, this is as far as he's going to go, you know, and we put that dog away and move forward with the next one. Now, if the dog is exceptional and he pulls through these classes like there ain't nobody there in front of him, what do you say? He gets into the champion class. What do you do if your dog, say there's 4 shows, and in the second show that day he becomes a champion? Do you put him right into the champion class? I have my own opinion on this, but what do you think, Abdias? What do you think? Do you throw him right in there? Do you wait? What do you do?
I think that if you think that you just graduated and you just got to the champ class and you're going to get into the champ class and do some molly-whopping, you're going to come to a reality check, like pump your brakes.
Yeah.
We're talking about the champion class.
Yeah.
And you just got through to get there.
Yeah.
Now is the time that you put in that extra effort to make your champion a champion of champions.
Right. So in the first 1 to 2 year, right? Or in the classes, let's just say classes, before they even get, you know, any further than that, you know. Classes, I believe that you can still use bait at this point. You know what I'm saying? You can still use bait. At this point, I don't know about squeaky toys, but bait, yes. You know what I'm saying?
Let me come back real quick and ask you, what are a few things that you can see in the 1 year mark that you can't see before? And then talking about the evaluation of the dog, something that happens to the dog at the 1 year mark where it's like now it's relevant. Now you
well,
can see
I think at this point the dog should be able to physically be able to let himself be examined correctly. That's one basis, that the dog should be able to stand there and be able to be evaluated by the judge with hands on and not falter or do any kind of, you know, weird thing. You know what I'm saying? Or growl or anything like that. Like, to me, that shows a big sign of, okay, there's a lot of improvement happening with the dog. Correct. You know, he's allowing now the judges, he's being comfortable now around judges that are, you know, well, shit, nobody wants their nuts to get grabbed, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? Like some stranger. Well, wait a minute, Diaz.
I told the border patrol agent on the way over.
That's true.
I said to him, he says, does your dog bite? And I said, only if you grab his nut. Which was a complete lie, but, you know, it got us through the checkpoint.
That was true. The immigration officer laughed and said, just get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
That was funny,
Shout
man.
out.
Oh, dude. But yeah, so you look for those things. Now, once he gets into the champion class, I think in the champion class, there should be no real distractions for the dog. The dog now has graduated now into the champion class. Now, let's get back to if you go into the second show and becomes a champion, do you throw him into the third throw as a champion class, or do you stall? Your point was you kind of pump your brakes a little bit and realize you're coming into something hot.
Shout out to SDCB Bullies. He said he'd wait, you know, and he's been commenting up here, you know, Eric Wilson. He said, you're already there. You might as well throw him in.
Those are great opinions. You know what I'm saying? Now let's see. With Eric, right? I would do that. But if I realize my competition, I have to size up the competition too. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, I'm here playing chess. I'm not playing, you know, checkers. So if I see that, yeah, my dog has a great opportunity against those three champions, absolutely, bam. You know, I'll do that. But if I feel like we got to the champion class, we made it this far, the point was to get to be a champion, this showing, we got it. You know, now I'm going to let my dog enjoy himself because mission accomplished, homie. You know what I'm saying? Mission accomplished. If there's 3 other shows, I don't care. I'll put him in the class just to make sure that he has the points and I'm not missing any T's or dotting my I's. You know what I'm saying? I'll do that.
And I'll come back at this because by that time, come on, you made it to the champion class. You're excited. Yeah. All you're going to do is transmit all that excitement.
So there's two great points of opinion. There's 2 great points of opinion. Myself,
I'd sit there and just bathe in the wind. You know?
Bathe in the.
That's all we got.
Bask in the winnings.
Bask in that sun, and
you know, like
we made it, boy.
Yeah, I that's how I see it. You know, and then, like for example, you know, Montana this weekend did real good. You know, I still have to look at the points and all that, but I'm pretty sure that he did his thing. You know, so.
Yeah, we were out there grinding, guys. Don't think that we were just out there like, no, we putting in work out here. You know, we're out here.
Montana
we're right
was
there
in Claremont.
The trenches with you guys.
We took different dogs to Claremont, and then we took different dogs to Arkansas. The only dog that we took the same was our 6 to 9 month old puppy. That was the only one we took to both shows. But that's because we're breaking them in. We're getting them ready, you know. So, you know, getting back to these classes, once you become a champion, what are the expectations of a champion? You know, let's be honest, man. You have a female champion. Now that we have the champion females versus champion females, well, that's a lot better. You know, there's I guess you could say a level playing field there. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I agree. I agree because you can't. Well, you can, but and they do, but you know, champion male is always going to be somewhat. But I've seen some champion females. But
let's be honest. It is very hard for a grand champion female to beat a grand champion male. The female must be exceptional to me. You know,
we took a female out there, and she really ran. Last year.
Yeah,
we took to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And
people thought that she was a male.
She was big.
And she was just a big girl, man. You know, but very clean female. Karma. Shout out to Westway.
Shout out to
Beautiful
Westway.
female, man.
Yes, sir.
You know, that female has really blessed our yard, and we really put her to work, and she's really done some good things for us, you know, so shout out.
That is possible, but most of the time, you're really going to get outworked in the ring.
The males are always going to be more dominant, especially in the grand champion class. Now, you get to the champion class, that makes you a great representation of the American bully, a worthy American Bully to be reproduced, right? That's the goal of the shows, right? To evaluate breeding stock. You know, what is good stock, what is great stock, what is exceptional. You know, at this point, it's great stock. You know, champion class is great stock. You know, so what are the expectations there? Do you sit back and analyze, you know, we're going to pick and choose what shows, which dogs and all that, or do you just gun-ho and say, hey, if he's a champion, we're going to do it. Boom. We're going to fight through it. You know what I'm saying? I think that if he's a champion, let's get ready, let's get shielded up, let's get our swords sharpened, you know, and let's get out there and go to work.
Here's a good question. And that may not necessarily for the male aspect of it, but for the females. You know, you hit your champion, female. You want to continue? Or is this the moment where you want to say, hey, this is a champion. This is breedable stock now.
Right.
This is now breedable stock. This is now she's done and now we'll talk about this real quick and I'll just bring it up. Bitches that have had litters as opposed to bitches in the ring that haven't had litters have a little bit of the ones that haven't had litters have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
And the ones that have.
Well, you know, to some judges, yeah, because obviously the female is tighter, fit, you know. I mean, it's like a young woman.
Better. She looks better, right?
But at the end of the day,
what's your opinion on it?
My opinion on it is, if there's an exceptional female champion that has been bred, to me, whoever the owner is or the producer of that female did a great job, because that female is now a champion and she should be bred, you know, and not wait too long either, because you could be damaging the female if you wait too long, you know. There's a certain time period, and we'll get to that in other episodes, right?
I just want to hit that.
But that's my opinion. Is, to me, a female that's already had puppies is much more valuable. You know what I'm saying, to the gene pool.
So it's not a damaging mark as far as her show.
Not to me. Not to me. Not to me. Obviously, you don't want a female that just got done whelping and she's underweight, or, you know, she's super fat, and obviously not, you know. But if you can tell that the female's already had a litter, I'm gonna definitely take that into consideration. You know, like that definitely is a good sign to me. You know, that not only is she a champion, but she's probably reproduced herself very well. You know, so. But
which is a positive mark.
Yeah, so at the champion class, these are worthy dogs to be bred now, right? That's the mark. Now, through this, what do you consider more of a champion? You know, now, let's just give you guys an insight on how we tend to do things. You know, when we have a pup that made it to the champion class in less than a year, and he's already a champion, we wait. We wait and let the dog mature before we even introduce him into those champion classes, because of the fact that you're going to bring in a puppy, you know, that really you might hurt his career at the end as well, you know, because he's getting beat every single time by these bigger dogs, you know. So why not give the dog a little edge, let him sit back, let him marinate, let him get thicker, let him mature a little bit more, you know what I'm saying?
That doesn't mean we stop the socialization.
No, absolutely not. The training and socialization continues. That's nonstop.
That's just, you know, it's time to pull.
Just let the dog marinate. You know, let the dog marinate. You know, it's like the off season for a bodybuilder. You know what I'm saying? Just eat, enjoy life,
marinate,
rest.
Meaning put in that work to him so he can keep swallowing, keep getting whatever he needs, whether it's
continuous growth correctly.
Yeah.
You know, continuous growth correctly. So you get to that point, right? Now that's what we do. We wait and then we attack the champion classes, you know, but say they've already done all this. They make it to the grand champion class. Now, what are the expectations in the champion class? Now, to me, a grand champion should be an exceptional representation of the American Bully. You know, a well-worthy dog to be bred, you know?
It's a once again, I just go back to my memory bank, and I've seen grand champions become grand champions, and their energy just in the show, they're just something different. And then, and to harness that, and I know, guys, and I know that, you know, obviously it comes down to the human, and it's like, well, this is my grand champion dog, you know, and I'm gonna rest him for a year. It's like, wait a minute, you just have momentum, man. Yeah, just take him out. Just keep going. Like,
well, and here's the thing, like in the champion classes and in the grand champion classes, you graduated. You know what I'm saying? You graduated. So say that you were the dog owner, okay? And you handled that dog since he was a puppy. He won all his classes, but you were the owner. What do you do when he gets to the champion classes? Do you continue to handle the dog? Do you continue to handle the dog throughout his whole career? Or at this point, do you sit back and say, listen, I got my dog to this point. I believe I have a wonderful dog. I have a wonderful representation of the American Bully. Why not look for somebody professionally to handle my dog if I want to push his career in the right direction? Those are things that you should be thinking about at that point, you know, because you want to give your dog the best possible chance he can, especially as a champion and a grand champion, you know. I think that at that point, if you've been handling the dog as an owner and you're not really a professional handler, sometimes you might put your dog in positions where your dog should have won because of his structure, but it's just wasn't shown correctly, you know? And so that in itself may hinder the production of what the dog goes through in his career. So at this point, do you sit back and say, hey, listen, I'm going to place him in somebody's hands where they can do the job and they can get it done and they can show the dog to his best potential, you know? It's a tough one. But that's a great piece of advice, you know. I think that at the grand champion stages, if you yourself are not a professional handler or haven't been a professional handler or want your dog to excel more than what just the normal basis of becoming a grand champion, maybe a #1 dog in the country or the top 3 in the country, you know, what do? I think it's about that time where you say, hey, if I believe in my dog this much, I'm going to invest in my dog and I'm going to find some handles for him, which I'm sure out there in the community, there's some great handlers, man. I've seen some great handlers in Arkansas.
Yes.
Kansas. I seen some great handlers in Oklahoma, Texas, you know what I'm, Florida, you know what I'm saying? Like Cali. You know what I mean? Like, there's great handlers everywhere, you know, and those of you that are handlers, you know, put your business out here on here, man. You know what I'm saying? Tap in. There's a lot of people looking for great handles. You know what I'm saying?
One of the key elements of the WBA is the competition is constantly being pushed.
Right.
And it's one thing to say, hey, we're here in the States. And then it's another thing to say, I was global. I was worldwide.
Yes.
I sent my dog to Spain, to Mexico, to Brazil, and he won over there too.
Yes.
It's like, there is enough, I want to say, there's enough to push us.
Yes.
To compete all over the world.
And we're the type that, you know, we've gotten our dogs to a certain point, and then it's time for them to graduate and go. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have potential candidates right now that will be sent out of country that other people will handle, that we won't even be around them. You know, they'll be boarded out there and they'll be in the show rings out there.
That's
you know?
Right. That's right.
And you have to have the confidence in those people to put your dog in the best position.
Here's the thing. You go to the shows that, and by means, go to every show you can.
Yeah.
But open your horizons. Like, you want different competition. You've gone and you've beat everybody around your community.
Yeah.
And, well, guess what? Like we just have in the comments right here, the comments are there for all of us to read. There's always a dog out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, every dog has his day.
Every dog has his day, man.
So if you're about competing and putting up, you know, your production and to say, hey, I want this to show that it's the best. This is what I got, and he's kicking ass and taking in, by all means. You know, you can always just broaden your horizons.
Yeah.
And that's what the WA brings in that sense, you know.
And it's not easy. It's
No.
not easy. It's not easy. You know, and I tell this, if it was easy, everybody would be having all sorts of champions and grand champions. It's not easy. You know, so shout outs to everybody doing their work and getting the hard effort in when nobody's watching. You know what I mean?
That's right. Keep putting it in, and we're gonna get into the understanding of why we're putting all this in, this work, and what the numbers mean, and what the certificates and all that, and at the end of it all. But you know, we really want to thank everybody that watched and keep tuning in, because we got some. We got an interview coming up.
We really do. We got some good stuff coming up, man. Episode 5, we're going to have an interview. In episode 10, we're going to have a good interview. So stay tuned for those. We are on Spotify. We are on YouTube. Share, like, subscribe. Do all these things, man, and spread the word. You know what I'm saying?
Like, go to your local shows.
Yeah, go to your local shows. You know,
keep up the work.
Support your local community, man, and keep up the work. Take your dogs, put your dogs in positions where they can be successful. You know, take into consideration all the hard work that you do, and also take into consideration that you cannot be kennel blind. You know, stay true to yourself. Stay true to the dogs. You know, I think that if you're a righteous person, instead of taking it a hard way, you're going to learn from it, and you're going to take it in, and you're going to get better, and you're going to bring back a better dog, you know.
That's right.
And every time we see you, it's going to be a better dog every time, and we'll be blown away. Like, damn, this guy or this lady shows up, and every time, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn,
you guys really bring it, and keep bringing it.
Keep bringing it, man. Keep bringing it to these shows. Like I said, it was a blessing to be out there. You know, we're really looking forward to the next show in Bruno, WBA in Bruno, I believe, at the end of March.
At
the end of March, I believe, in Bruno. You know what I'm saying? We'll be there. We'll be there. It'll be a great show. And like I said, man, episode 4 next week on Thursday at 7. We'll keep you guys tapped in on that one, but we're going to have a real interesting topic, man, which on that one, we're going to need a lot of feedback on that one. But like I said, stay tuned. Much love and respect to all you guys watching. On to the next one, man.
This was Bullies on Parade, where the mic is live and the
standards are high, baby.
Choo! Woof.